Arthur Conan Doyle, The Return of Sherlock Holmes. The Adventure of the Norwood Builder, Part 2. Holmes had taken the pages of the rough draft of the will, and he was looking at them very carefully, with great interest on his face. "There are some interesting points about this document, Lestrade, are there not?" said he, as he pushed them towards him. The officer looked at them with a confused expression. "I can read the first few lines, and also some in the middle of the second page, and one or two at the end. These are as clear as print," said he. "But the writing between them is very bad, and there are 3 places where I cannot read it at all." "What do you think about that?" said Holmes. "Well, what do you think about it?" "I think it was written on a train. The clear writing was done when the train stopped at stations. The bad writing was done while the train was moving, and the very bad writing when it passed over points. An expert would say at once that this was written on a suburban line, because only near a big city can there be so many points so close together. If we believe that the whole journey was used to write the will, then the train was a fast one, stopping only once between Norwood and London Bridge." Lestrade began to laugh. "You are too much for me when you start with your theories, Mr. Holmes," said he. "How does this help the case?" "Well, it supports the young man's story, because it shows that the will was written by Jonas Oldacre during his journey yesterday. It is strange, is it not, that a man would write such an important document in such a careless way? It suggests that he did not think it would be very important in practice. If a man wrote a will that he never expected to be used, he might do it like this." "Well, he wrote his own death sentence at the same time," said Lestrade. "Oh, you think so?" "Don't you?" "Well, it is possible, but the case is not clear to me yet." "Not clear? If this is not clear, what could be clear? Here is a young man who suddenly learns that if an older man dies, he will get a fortune. What does he do? He tells no one, but arranges to visit his client that night for some reason. He waits until the only other person in the house is asleep, and then, alone in the room, he kills him, burns his body in the woodpile, and then goes to a nearby hotel. The blood in the room and on the stick is very small. He probably thought the crime would not involve much blood, and hoped that burning the body would hide all signs of how the man died, signs which must have pointed to him for some reason. Is this not clear?" "It seems to me, my dear Lestrade, just a little too clear," said Holmes. "You have many good qualities, but you do not use imagination. If you put yourself in the place of this young man, would you choose the same night when the will was made to commit the crime? Would it not seem dangerous to connect the 2 events so closely? Also, would you choose a time when it is known that you are in the house, when a servant has let you in? And finally, would you take great care to hide the body, but leave your own stick behind as evidence? Admit it, Lestrade, this is very unlikely. As for the stick, Mr. Holmes, you know that a criminal is often nervous and makes mistakes that a calm man would not make. He was probably afraid to go back into the room. Give me another theory that fits the facts." "I could easily give you several," said Holmes. "Here, for example, is one that is very possible and even likely. I give it to you freely. The older man is showing documents which are clearly valuable. A passing tramp sees them through the window, where the blind is only half down. The lawyer leaves. The tramp enters. He takes a stick that he sees there, kills Oldacre, and then leaves after burning the body. Why would the tramp burn the body? In that case, why would Macfarlane? To hide some evidence. Perhaps the tramp wanted to hide that a murder had happened at all. And why did the tramp take nothing? Because the papers were of no use to him." Lestrade shook his head, but it seemed to me that he was not as sure as before. "Well, Mr. Sherlock Holmes, you can look for your tramp, and while you are doing that, we will keep our man." The future will show who is right. Just notice this, Mr. Holmes. As far as we know, none of the papers were taken, and the prisoner is the one man who had no reason to take them, because he would inherit them anyway. My friend seemed surprised by this remark. I do not deny that the evidence in some ways strongly supports your theory, said he. I only want to show that other explanations are possible. As you say, the future will decide. Good morning. I expect that later today I will go to Norwood and see how things are going. When the detective left, my friend stood up and prepared for the day's work with the energy of a man who had an interesting task in front of him. My first step, Watson, said he, as he quickly put on his coat, must be, as I said, to go to Blackheath. And why not Norwood? Because in this case, we have one strange event followed by another strange event. The police are making a mistake by focusing only on the second one, because it is the crime. But it is clear to me that the logical way to begin is to understand the first event, the strange will, made so suddenly and given to such an unexpected person. This may help to explain what happened later. No, my dear friend, I do not think you can help me. There is no danger, or I would not think of going without you. I hope that when I see you this evening, I will be able to say that I have done something for this unfortunate young man who has asked for my help. It was late when my friend came back, and I could see from his tired and worried face that the high hopes he had in the morning had not come true. For an hour he played his violin in a low, slow way, trying to calm himself. At last he put the instrument down and began to tell me in detail about his unsuccessful day. It's all going wrong, Watson. All as wrong as it can be. I kept a confident face in front of Lestrade, but honestly, I think that this time he may be right and we may be wrong. All my instincts tell me one thing, and all the facts tell me another, and I am afraid that British juries are not yet clever enough to choose my theories instead of Lestrade's facts. Did you go to Blackheath? Yes, Watson, I went there. And I quickly discovered that the late Oldacre was a very bad man. The father was away looking for his son. The mother was at home. A small, soft, blue-eyed woman, very nervous and upset. Of course, she would not accept even the possibility that her son was guilty. But she did not show any surprise or sadness about what had happened to Oldacre. On the contrary, she spoke about him with such anger that she was, without knowing it, helping the police case. Because if her son had heard her speak like this, it could make him feel hatred and violence. He was more like a cruel and clever ape than a human being, she said. And he was always like that, even when he was young. You knew him at that time? I asked. Yes, I knew him well. In fact, he once wanted to marry me. Thank heaven that I was wise enough to refuse him and marry a better man, even if he was poorer. I was engaged to him, Mr. Holmes, when I heard a terrible story about how he let a cat loose in a place full of birds. And I was so shocked by his cruelty that I ended everything with him. She searched in a desk, and soon she took out a photograph of a woman, badly cut and damaged with a knife. That is my own photograph, she said. He sent it to me like that, with a curse, on the morning of my wedding. Well, I said, at least he has forgiven you now, since he has left all his property to your son. Neither my son nor I want anything from Jonas Oldacre, dead or alive, she cried strongly. There is a God in heaven, Mr. Holmes, and that same God who has punished that evil man will show, in his own time, that my son is not guilty of his blood. Well, I tried to follow one or two ideas, but I could find nothing that would support our theory, and I found several things that went against it. In the end, I gave up and went to Norwood. This place, Deep Dean House, is a large modern house made of bright brick. It stands back from the road in its own grounds, with a lawn and groups of laurel bushes in front. On the right side, and some distance from the road, was the timber yard where the fire had happened. Here is a rough plan on a page from my notebook. This window on the left is the one that leads into Oldacre's room. You can see into it from the road. That is almost the only comfort I have had today. Lestrade was not there, but his head constable showed me everything. They had just found something important. They had spent the morning searching the ashes of the burned woodpile, and besides burned human remains, they had found several dark metal discs. I looked at them carefully, and there was no doubt that they were trouser buttons. I even saw that one of them had the name Hyams on it, who was Oldacre's tailor. I then examined the lawn very carefully for signs, but the dry weather had made the ground very hard. There was nothing to see except that some body or bundle had been pulled through a low hedge, which was in line with the woodpile. Of course, all this supports the police theory. I searched the lawn under the hot August sun, but after an hour, I was no wiser than before. Well, after this failure, I went into the bedroom and examined it too. The blood marks were very small, only light stains, but clearly fresh. The stick had been taken away, but there were also only small marks there. There is no doubt that the stick belongs to our client. He admits it. Footprints of both men could be seen on the carpet, but there were no footprints of a third person, which again supports the other side. They were gaining more and more evidence, and we were not making progress. Only one small hope did I find, and even that led nowhere. I checked the contents of the safe. Most of it had been taken out and left on the table. The papers were in sealed envelopes, and one or two had been opened by the police. They did not seem very valuable, and the bank book did not show that Mr. Oldacre was very rich. But it seemed to me that not all the papers were there. There were mentions of some documents, possibly the more valuable ones, which I could not find. If we could prove this, it would go against Lestrade's argument, because why would someone steal something if he knew he would soon inherit it? Finally, after trying everything and finding nothing, I tried to speak with the housekeeper. Her name is Mrs. Lexington, a small, dark, quiet woman with suspicious eyes. I am sure she could tell us something if she wanted to, but she said almost nothing. Yes, she had let Mr. McFarlane in at 9:30. She said she wished she had never done it. She went to bed at 10:30. Her room was at the other end of the house, and she heard nothing of what happened. Mr. McFarlane had left his hat, and, as far as she knew, his stick in the hall. She woke up when the fire alarm was raised. Her poor master had certainly been murdered. Did he have enemies? Well, everyone has enemies. She and the fireman smelled burned flesh from inside. She knew nothing about the papers or about Mr. Oldacre's private life. So, my dear Watson, that is my report of failure. And yet, he closed his thin hands tightly in strong emotion. I know it is all wrong. I feel it deeply. There is something that has not been discovered, and that housekeeper knows it. There was a kind of stubborn and secret look in her eyes, which suggests that she knows something. But there is no use talking more about it now, Watson. Unless something lucky happens, I am afraid that the Norwood case will not be part of the list of our successful cases, which I believe the public will one day read. Surely, I said, the man's appearance would help him with any jury. That is a dangerous idea, my dear Watson. Do you remember that terrible murderer, Bert Stevens, who wanted us to defend him in 1887? Was there ever a more gentle and well-behaved young man? That is true. If we do not find another explanation, this man is lost. It is very hard to find any weakness in the case against him, and everything we have discovered has made it stronger. By the way, there is one small but interesting point about those papers, which may help us start a new investigation. When I looked at the bank book, I saw that the low balance was mainly because of large checks that were paid during the last year to a man named Mr. Cornelius. I would like to know who this Mr. Cornelius is, because a retired builder has had very large financial dealings with him. Is it possible that he is involved in the case? Cornelius might be a broker, but we have found no shares or investments that match these large payments. If we find no other clues, I will have to go to the bank and ask about the man who cashed these checks. But I am afraid, my dear friend, that this case may end badly, with Lestrade sending our client to prison, which would be a great success for Scotland Yard. I do not know how much sleep Sherlock Holmes had that night, but when I came down to breakfast, I found him pale and tired, with bright eyes that looked even brighter because of the dark shadows around them. The carpet around his chair was covered with cigarette ends and early editions of the morning newspapers. An open telegram lay on the table. "What do you think about this, Watson?" he asked, throwing it to me. It was from Norwood, and it said, "Important new evidence found. McFarlane's guilt clearly proved. I advise you to give up the case. Lestrade." "This sounds serious," I said. "It is Lestrade's little cry of victory," Holmes answered with a bitter smile. "But it may be too early to give up the case. Important new evidence can mean different things, and it may lead in another direction than Lestrade thinks. Eat your breakfast, Watson, and we will go out together and see what we can do. I feel that I will need your company and support today."